We live in a world surrounded by technology, and things such as mobile devices have become very important in our everyday lives. Research shows that the average American spends over 5 hours a day on their device. One of the main things used on people's devices is social media. Social media allows people to share content quickly and efficiently with others. Currently, there are 3.7 billion active social media users, which is almost half the world's population. Over the past few years, social media has shown signs of being highly addictive, and many are questioning if social media is causing people to become less social. Some would say social media is making us more social, since it's designed to help us keep up and interact with other people. But research shows that's not the case. Have you ever seen this before? People glued to their iPhones instead of social interacting? I know I have, and I know I've done it too. Social media has taken over many people's lives, to the point where they will ignore people in their current life to check up on how many likes they got or to see what other people are doing. One study showed that 87% of participants said they missed out on a conversation because of social media. Another study showed that 50% of teenagers said that they were addicted to their device. But why is that? Why are people more entertained or interested in social media instead of engaging with someone in real life? It has to do with something in our brain called dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical that is released in our brain that makes us feel good. Dopamine can be released from things such as gambling, taking drugs, eating, and from being on social media, which are all highly addicting things. On social media, when someone likes, comments, or messages you, it releases dopamine. Social media can be so addictive because people crave dopamine hits which are released when on social media.
Reality is that all of those little pieces of feedback will trigger these like dopamine hits in your brain. And there have been studies that a lot of scientists have done that shows that things like getting a thumbs up on something that you post, getting a comment, having someone share something that you posted, that gives you these little like fires of dopamine hits in your brain. Social media has become so addicting and so popular among people of all ages because who doesn't like the dopamine hit?
Because of this, people will constantly check their social media to get dopamine hits. In result, people will engage less in real life since they're checking social media. According to a study held by FlashGap, almost 76% of females check their social media 10 times when they're hanging out with their friends. Since social media is so addicting and entertaining, people feel that they don't need social interactions to be entertained. But dopamine hits aren't the only thing that is making people addicted to social media. Something called the fear of missing out is making people even more addicted to social media. The fear of missing out, also known as FOMO, is a fear of missing out on an exciting or interesting event that may be currently happening somewhere else. A study from J. Walter Thompson from the Intelligence Communications showed that 70% of adult millennials have FOMO. Because of FOMO, people check social media even more. In result, people are on social media instead of having real social interactions.
Facebook spent a ton of time trying to figure out how to make the news feed work so that every user would spend more and more time on Facebook. The company looked at things like the different stories that people saw, which stories were shared. And so all of those things went into a model, and that model was designed to predict for each individual what combination of stories and newsfeed were going to bring you back.
Also, since people love the feeling of getting comments and likes, many will do things in real life to get more of those things, such as taking selfies while doing cool things or editing photos with filters, which all take away from social interacting.
Every girl in the picture is locked into her phone. Or all Peralta knocks it into center. David tonight 2 for 2, a leadoff single here in the fourth, and nobody noticed. We need to. Can we do an intervention?
Also now, since we can simply follow people on social media to keep up and stay in touch, people have less of an urge to meet people in real life. Researchers found that about 1/3 of people communicate less with their parents, partners, children, and friends because of social media. Interacting on social media is so much less thoughtful, deep, and meaningful as interacting in real life, and many people are replacing real socializing with social media.
You get to see what everyone's up to, you get to comment on stuff, you get to like stuff. But those connections are very lightweight connections, and they don't compare to real socializing.
I decided to ask some of my friends and family questions about their use on their devices and what their opinions are on the topic of social media.
Around like 6 hours.
Screen time is 3 hours and 57 minutes.
And it's 4 hours and 33 minutes per day.
And what are your
So my average daily screen time is 4 hours and 27 minutes.
4 hours and 6 minutes. TikTok, FaceTime, and messages.
Is mostly Facebook, YouTube, and a little bit of Instagram.
Apps.
TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram.
And just use apps.
My number one is FaceTime, and then Snapchat, and then messages.
YouTube, FaceTime, and Instagram.
I would say both, because when people, they Snapchat and go on Instagram, and it's like, you can like become closer with people. I think it's actually making me more social.
I see stories from people who I haven't talked to in years. I definitely feel like I am more social because I've opened up all of my network of friends and I see everything that's going on. On the flip side, I think Facebook can also hinder your ability to socialize because it gives you this idea of feeling connected with each other because you get to see what everyone's up to, you get to comment on stuff, you get to like stuff. Those connections are very lightweight connections and they don't compare to real social.
It makes you more social on the app. Like I guess you're communicating with your friends, you're commenting on their posts, like I guess DMing them, but it makes you like less social in real life.
A lot of people tend to go on their phones. Like if you're hanging out after school or something, they might just be on Snapchat or Instagram, just not talking to each other, which I think makes you less social.
Oftentimes, a lot of middle school kids, I'll see them at Starbucks or something, and they'll all be together, they're all friends, they're all hanging out together, and what do you see? They're all looking down on their device.
And they're all just on their phone, and they'll just ignoring each other. And
Friends, they'd rather go on their phones instead of interact because they care about like what's going on their phones more than in real life.
Yeah.
And so I think in that respect, social media makes people less social, but it makes you feel like you're being more social.
Not only has social media made us less social, but it's also completely changed the way we socialize today.
Or social media, socializing looked very different. I could be at a sporting event and there might be some friends who I'm not that close with, but I don't know, maybe I want to get to know them a little bit better. I would have to figure out how to socialize with them. That means you're putting yourself out there. It means you're trying to strike up a conversation. It makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? That's how socializing used to exist before social media. Now, think about how you build connections with a lot of different people. A lot of that happens online, which means that in some respect, there's a lot less risk involved. So it's made it easier for kids to socialize in a very lightweight way. I think it's made it much harder to socialize and to connect with people in a meaningful way.
So in conclusion, social media causes people to become less social because many would rather look on a device instead of having real social interactions. So maybe we should look up from our phones once in a while and instead of sending someone a message to interact with them, instead ask to meet up. Or instead of scrolling through the infinite feed of nonsense, to instead have a conversation with people. Because is the phone in front of you more important than the people who matter, who are just behind the screen?